You walk into a room and within seconds you're scanning. Who's higher? Who's lower? Who's watching? Who's not? And that scan is quietly costing you everything. It costs you your presence, your peace, your power. It costs you the chance to simply be in the room without performing for it. And here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. That scan is not confidence. It's not social intelligence. It's a survival reflex. It's the behavior of someone who has never built a home for their own worth, so they're constantly checking whether the world will let them stay. Most people call this being aware. The Stoics would call it a surrender. A surrender of your center to people who don't even know they're judging you. Here's the costly mistake. You keep trying to become unbothered by controlling what other people think. You can't. You never could. And every minute you spend trying is a minute you're not spending on the only thing that actually works. Building a sense of worth so deep inside yourself that nothing outside can reach it. That's what this is about. Being unbothered isn't numbness. It isn't detachment as avoidance. It's the result of building your worth so deep inside yourself that external validation becomes irrelevant. Not because you decided it was. Because you replaced it with something stronger. Epictetus understood this 1500 years before anyone used the word psychology. He was born a slave. He was beaten so badly his leg was permanently damaged. And from that broken position, he built a mind so unshakable that emperors sent their children to learn from him. His core insight was simple and ruthless. Some things are up to you. Your judgments, your impulses, your desires, your aversions. Everything else is not. Your body, your reputation, your possessions, other people's opinions. The moment you understand this, really understand it, not as a quote but as a way of seeing, everything changes. Because the scan I described, that constant checking of where you stand, that is the behavior of someone who has placed their worth in the not up to you column. You've handed the measurement of your value to other people. And then you wonder why you feel unstable. You wonder why one look from a coworker can ruin your morning. Why one critical comment echoes for days. Why you rehearse conversations before they happen and replay them after they're over. It's because you built your house on someone else's land. The first habit is this. Internalize your locus of worth. Stop measuring yourself by anything you can't directly control. Your income. Your status. Your attractiveness as judged by others. Your follower count. Your reputation. All of these are external. All of them can be taken away in an instant, and you would have no say in it. Epictetus would say you are choosing to be unstable. You are choosing to be bothered. Because you tied your well-being to things that are not in your power. So what is in your power? Your character. Your effort. Your integrity. Your response to difficulty. Your ability to be honest with yourself. Your capacity to endure discomfort without collapsing. These are the things no one can take from you. Not a tyrant, not a market crash, not a breakup, not a scandal. The Stoics didn't just believe this. They tested it. Epictetus tested it from the floor of a slave's quarters. Seneca tested it from exile and from a position of immense wealth, proving that the same inner fortress holds whether you have everything or nothing. Marcus Aurelius tested it from the throne of the known world, surrounded by people who wanted his power, his time, his attention, his approval. And all three arrived at the same place. Your worth is not something others grant you. It is something you build and something you guard. So the first practice is simple and relentless. Every time you catch yourself measuring your value by something external, pause. Ask yourself one question. Is this up to me? If it's not, let it go. Not once. Not as a one-time exercise. Every single time. Until it becomes automatic. Until the reflex to seek external validation is replaced by a deeper reflex, the reflex to return to what you control. That's habit 1. Now the second. Marcus Aurelius spent years writing to himself. Not to an audience. Not to readers. To himself. He was the most powerful man alive, and he used that power to shrink the audience he performed for until the only spectator left was himself. Think about that. The Emperor of Rome, who could have demanded the entire world watch him, chose instead to make himself his own audience. Most people do the opposite. You expand the audience. You perform for strangers. You perform for people you went to high school with. You perform for coworkers who don't think about you after 5. You perform for an algorithm. And every performance costs you something. A little piece of your authenticity. A little piece of your peace. The second habit is to shrink the audience. Stop performing for people who aren't paying attention. Stop performing for people who are, but whose attention is worthless. Ask yourself, who am I trying to impress right now? And then ask the harder question. Why? Why does their approval matter to me? What do I think it will give me? Usually, the answer is safety. You think if enough people approve of you, you'll be safe. Safe from criticism. Safe from rejection. Safe from being alone. But that safety is an illusion. The approval of others is weather. It changes without warning and without your consent. The only real safety is the kind you build inside yourself. Marcus understood this. He wrote, over and over, reminders to himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wasn't writing philosophy. He was writing survival notes. He was alone at the top, dealing with betrayal, war, plague, and the constant pressure of being the final authority on everything. And his strategy was not to get better at managing other people's opinions. It was to stop needing them. So shrink the audience. Practice doing things with no witnesses. Go to a restaurant alone. Take a walk alone. Work on something personal that no one will ever see. And do it well. Not for Instagram. Not for a story. For yourself. Because when you can do things well with no audience, you stop needing the audience. And when you stop needing the audience, you become free. That's the second habit. The third is something that sounds dark but is actually the brightest thing you can do for yourself. Negative visualization. Here's what nobody tells you. You don't appreciate what you have because you have it. That's not laziness. That's biology. Humans are wired to adapt. You get the job, and within 2 weeks it's just your job. You find someone you love, and within months you stop noticing the miracle of their presence. You buy the thing, and the thing becomes invisible. This is called hedonic adaptation, and it is the silent enemy of your happiness. You keep chasing more because the things you already have gone transparent. You can't see them anymore. Not because they're not there, but because your mind stopped looking. The Stoics found a way to fight this. Seneca would periodically live as if the things he valued had already been taken away. Epictetus would remind his students that the people they love are mortal, not to be morbid, but to wake them up. The practice is this. Spend a few minutes imagining you've lost the things you care about most. Your health. Your loved ones. Your home. Your freedom. Not as a nightmare. As a rehearsal. Imagine your partner is gone. Really sit with it. Feel the absence. Then open your eyes and they're still there. Do you see what just happened? The thing that was invisible a moment ago is suddenly the most precious thing in the world. You didn't get anything new. You didn't change your circumstances. You just stopped taking something for granted. That's the third habit. Negative visualization. It sounds pessimistic, but it's the opposite. It's the most aggressive form of gratitude there is. Because real gratitude isn't something you feel when something good happens. Real gratitude is something you practice when nothing is happening, when everything is ordinary, when the miracle of your life has gone quiet. You rehearse loss so that you can reawaken appreciation for what you already hold. And here's what happens over time. You stop chasing. Not because you give up on growth, but because you realize you already have more than you ever acknowledged. The fourth habit is about something most people never even know they're doing. You have thoughts. Constantly. And most of them are not yours. They're echoes. Echoes of things people said to you years ago. Echoes of cultural scripts about what success looks like. Echoes of fears you picked up in childhood and never examined. And you treat these thoughts as if they're facts. You treat them as if they're you. Epictetus taught something profound about this. He said we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. In other words, the event itself doesn't hurt you. Your interpretation of the event hurts you. And here's the key. You don't have to accept the interpretation. The fourth habit is withdrawing assent from thoughts that don't serve action. When a thought arises, and it will, you don't have to let it in. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to wrestle with it. You just don't consent. Think of it like a bouncer at the door of your mind. A thought walks up. It says, everyone in that room is judging you. You look at it and you say, is this useful? Is this going to help me act better? Is this going to make me kinder, more focused, more effective? No? Then you don't let it in. Most people let every thought through the door. They sit with every anxiety, every resentment, every fantasy of revenge, every replay of an old conversation. They entertain these thoughts like guests, serve them tea, let them stay for hours. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted. You feel exhausted because you're hosting a party for thoughts that are draining you. Withdraw assent. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every emotion deserves your obedience. The Stoics were not telling you to suppress your thoughts. They were telling you to examine them. To hold each one up to the light and ask, does this serve? Does this help me act? Does this make me better? If not, let it pass through without giving it a seat. This is one of the most powerful habits you can build, because it changes your relationship with your own mind. You stop being the victim of your thoughts. You start being the gatekeeper. That's the fourth habit. The fifth is the one most people avoid completely. Voluntary discomfort. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. You don't trust yourself. Not really. You say you're strong, but you've never tested it. You say you can handle hard things, but you've never chosen a hard thing when an easy one was available. You say you're resilient, but your resilience has only been tested by accidents, by things that happened to you without your consent. And deep down, you know this. You know you've been avoiding difficulty. You know you've been choosing comfort at every turn. And that avoidance is eating away at your self-respect. Because you can't respect someone you've never seen under pressure. Including yourself. The fifth habit is voluntary discomfort. Doing hard things on purpose. Alone. With no audience. No credit. No reward except the proof that you can. Musonius Rufus, one of the great Stoic teachers, argued that self-denial builds character the way exercise builds the body. You don't get stronger by lifting things that are easy. You get stronger by lifting things that are just barely possible. And then doing it again tomorrow. The practice is simple. Take a cold shower. Skip a meal. Sleep on the floor. Walk in the rain. Do something uncomfortable, deliberately, and notice that you survive. Notice that the discomfort doesn't kill you. Notice that you're still here, still breathing, still intact. And each time you do this, something accumulates. Proof. Proof that you can handle it. Proof that you're not as fragile as you thought. Proof that you don't need comfort to be okay. This is how self-trust is built. Not by telling yourself you're strong. Not by reading quotes about resilience. By accumulating evidence. By putting yourself in the fire, on purpose, and walking out the other side. Over time, this changes everything. Because when real adversity comes, and it will, you won't panic. You won't collapse. You'll say, I've been here before. I chose this before. I can handle this. That's the fifth habit. The sixth is the evening review. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology only recently caught up with. Unexamined experience doesn't teach you anything. You can live through the most transformative day of your life and learn nothing from it if you don't reflect on it. Seneca practiced a nightly review. He would ask himself, what did I do well today? What did I do poorly? What could I do better? Not as a punishment. As a calibration. Think of it like a compass. If you never check your heading, you drift. Slowly. Imperceptibly. And one day you look up and you're miles from where you wanted to be, and you don't even know how you got there. The evening review is how you stop drifting. Every night, before you sleep, take 5 minutes. Go through the day. Not in obsessive detail. Just the highlights. Where did you act with integrity? Where did you cave? Where did you react instead of responding? Where did you seek approval you didn't need? Where did you let a thought in that didn't serve you? Where did you choose comfort over growth? And then, here's the important part, don't judge yourself. Just observe. Just note. Just see. Because the act of seeing is itself the change. When you start noticing your patterns, you start changing them. Not by force. By awareness. The next time a similar situation arises, you'll catch yourself a little earlier. You'll pause a little longer. You'll choose a little better. And over weeks and months, those small corrections compound. Night by night, you build clarity. And clarity is the foundation of being unbothered. Because when you know yourself, when you've seen yourself honestly, in the good moments and the bad, you stop being afraid of yourself. You stop being afraid that you'll fall apart. You've watched yourself fall apart and come back together, night after night, in the safety of your own review. And that builds a steadiness that nothing can shake. That's the sixth habit. The seventh is the one that ties everything together. Reducing desires. Most people hear this and think it means poverty. It doesn't. It means the opposite. It means the architecture of abundance. Here's what nobody tells you. The more you want, the less you have. Not because wanting takes things away, but because wanting makes what you have invisible. If you want 10 things and you have 3, you feel poor. If you want 3 things and you have 3, you feel complete. If you want one thing and you have it, you feel like the richest person alive. Wealth is not having what you want. It's wanting what you have. The Stoics understood this at a level most people never reach. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." He didn't say want more. He said want less. And then everything you have becomes more than enough. Most people live in a state of perpetual wanting. Wanting more money. More recognition. More comfort. More convenience. More attention. And that wanting is a leak. It drains everything. It drains your energy, your presence, your ability to enjoy what's right in front of you. You're sitting in a beautiful place, and you're thinking about the next place. You're with someone you love, and you're thinking about someone you haven't met. You're eating good food, and you're already thinking about dessert. The wanting never stops because you've never trained it to stop. The 7th habit is to reduce your desires. Not all at once. Not to 0. But deliberately. Choose one thing you want and let it go. Not because you can't have it. Because you don't need it. And watch what happens. The space that opens up when you stop wanting something is not emptiness. It's freedom. You suddenly have more attention for what's here. More energy for what matters. More capacity to be present with the people around you. You stop reaching and start receiving. And that is the architecture of abundance. Not having more. Needing less. That's the 7th habit. Now let me bring this together. Because these 7 habits are not a checklist. They're not a life hack. They're an operating system. A way of being that, when practiced daily, makes you unbothered. Not because you stop caring. But because you start caring about the right things. When you internalize your locus of worth, external validation stops running your life. When you shrink the audience, you stop performing for people who don't matter. When you practice negative visualization, you stop chasing what you already have. When you withdraw assent from useless thoughts, you stop being a hostage to your own mind. When you choose voluntary discomfort, you build proof that you can handle anything. When you review your evenings, you compound clarity into an unshakable self. And when you reduce your desires, you turn what you have into more than enough. 7 habits. 1 transformation. You become unbothered. Not because the world stopped being chaotic. It didn't. Not because people stopped judging. They won't. Not because life stopped being hard. It never will. You become unbothered because you built something inside yourself that the chaos can't reach, that the judgments can't touch, that the hardness can't break. You built a self. A real one. One that doesn't need the room to approve of it. One that doesn't need the scan. One that walks into any room, any situation, any storm, and stands. Not because it's numb. Because it's grounded. Remember where we started. You walk into a room and within seconds you're scanning. That scan is quietly costing you everything. Now imagine walking into that same room and not scanning. Not because you trained yourself not to care. Because you replaced the need to scan with something deeper. You walk in, and you're just there. Present. Whole. Not performing. Not measuring. Not comparing. Just being. That's what being unbothered actually looks like. It's not a performance of indifference. It's the absence of the need to perform at all. Being unbothered isn't numbness. It's the result of building your worth so deep inside yourself that external validation becomes irrelevant. That's the thesis. That's the whole thing. And it's not a one-time realization. It's a daily practice. A lifelong construction. You don't arrive at being unbothered. You build it, brick by brick, habit by habit, day by day. And the bricks are these 7 things. Your locus of worth. Your audience of one. Your rehearsal of loss. Your gatekeeping of thoughts. Your voluntary discomfort. Your evening review. Your reduced desires. Each one is a brick. Each one is a choice. And the fortress you build with them is not a wall to keep the world out. It's a home to keep yourself in. A home where you are enough. Where you have always been enough. Where you will continue to be enough, regardless of what the world decides about you. You still don't feel whole. You still don't feel like you. I know. That's because you've been looking outside for something that can only be built inside. And building takes time. It takes repetition. It takes the willingness to be uncomfortable, to be honest, to be alone with yourself and not run. But if you start today, if you pick one habit, just one, and practice it, not perfectly, not dramatically, just consistently, something will shift. Not overnight. But over time, you'll notice. You'll notice you're scanning less. You're reacting less. You're wanting less. You're performing less. And you're being more. More yourself. More present. More whole. More unbothered. Not because the world changed. Because you did. Stay disciplined. Choose growth over ease. And build the self that nothing can shake.